For 25 years, the biggest event in world darts was named after a cigarette. The Embassy World Professional Darts Championship. That was the actual title, printed on the trophy, spoken by the BBC commentators, painted on the backdrop behind every player who ever walked onto that stage at Lakeside. Embassy was a cigarette brand owned by Imperial Tobacco, and the name stayed on the sport's showpiece event from 1978 until a change in the law forced it off in 2003. 6 of the men who built that era are in this video. The oldest of them reached 63. The youngest died at 33. 2 things before we start, because both matter. First, the honest version of the title. 4 of these 6 men were world champions. 2 were not, and I am not going to pretend otherwise to make the video sound bigger. When Kyle Anderson died, Fox News ran a headline calling him a world champion darts player, and he never was. He deserves better than a lazy promotion. Second, and more important, I am not going to stand here and tell you that a cigarette sponsorship killed these specific men. I cannot prove that. No medical record supports it, and anybody who claims otherwise is guessing. What I'm going to do is lay the facts beside each other and let you look at them. That is a different thing, and it is more useful. The first World Professional Darts Championship was held from the 6th to the 10th of February 1978 at the heart of the Midlands nightclub on Talbot Street in Nottingham. Total prize fund £10,500. Winner's cheque £3,000. The money came from a tobacco company. WD and H.O. Wills of Bristol, later part of Imperial Tobacco, had already spent 3 years sponsoring snooker and decided to turn the same money and the same brand toward darts. The event was sold to the BBC as 5 days of coverage, and it worked. The relationship lasted a quarter of a century. Sources differ slightly on the count, with Wikipedia's own pages saying 25 years in one place and 26 in another, so treat the exact figure loosely. What is not in dispute is the shape of it. From the sport's very first World Championship until 2003, the trophy carried a cigarette brand. The deal was worth roughly £500,000 a year. Then the law caught up with it. The Tobacco Advertising and Promotion Act of 2002 banned tobacco sponsorship in the United Kingdom, and in March of 2003, the government told the darts authorities to terminate Imperial Tobacco sponsorship. Here is the detail that tells you exactly where darts sat in the sporting hierarchy. The transitional regulations allowed certain exceptional global events to keep tobacco money until July of 2005, which is how Formula 1 and World Snooker both got a reprieve. To qualify, a sponsorship had to be worth at least £2.5 million in the 12 months to the 11th of July 2001. The Embassy Darts deal was worth about £500,000. Darts was too small to qualify for the exemption that saved the other 2, and the sponsorship was stubbed out immediately. In 2004, the tournament became the Lakeside World Darts Championship, named after Bob Potter's venue instead. Snooker's Embassy survived until 2005, and that's only half of the environment these men worked in. Darts in that era was played in cabaret clubs and holiday camps, in front of audiences who were drinking, in rooms thick with smoke, and the players drank on stage, not secretly, as part of the act. I am not going to give you a date for when alcohol on stage was outlawed, because I could not verify one, and inventing a date would be exactly the sort of thing this channel is not for. What I can give you is one documented example, and it is enough. Andy Fordham, world champion in 2004, was in the habit of drinking 24 bottles of lager before going on stage to play darts. That is his own account, and it is in his Wikipedia entry, sourced to his own words, 24 bottles, before playing, as routine. Nobody stopped him. Nobody was employed to stop him. That was simply how the sport worked. Now here are the 6 men, the earliest of these deaths, and the youngest of the golden era generation. Alan Evans, born in Ferndale in the Rhondda Valley on the 14th of June 1949, was one of the first faces of televised darts anywhere. He reached the final of the 1972 News of the World Championship, the first darts event ever broadcast in the United Kingdom, and he became a regular on Yorkshire Television's The Indoor League, the programme produced by Sid Waddell that turned lunchtime darts into a ratings winner. Waddell gave him his nickname, Evans the Arrow, and named a shot after him. To this day, when a player needs 150, commentators call 3 bullseyes the Alan Evans shot. He won the World Masters and the British Open in 1975, and captained Wales to victory in the inaugural World Cup in 1977. That same July, he played an exhibition match against Muhammad Ali at the Gypsy Green Stadium in South Shields. He never won the World Championship. His best runs were semi-finals in 1979 and 1987, and in May of 1979 he received a 12-month ban from the British Darts Organisation following an incident after an international match. His body went before his career did. Evans began having problems with his kidneys in the autumn of 1987, and he left the circuit after the MFY World Pairs in June of 1988, age 39. He came back to television just once in June of 1997, playing Eric Bristow at the Circus Tavern in the Battle of the Champions on Sky. He hit 2 maximums and lost 3 sets to 0. 9 years away from the cameras, and he still had that in him. Alan Evans died of kidney problems in Barry, in the Vale of Glamorgan, at the age of 49. Sources give the date as either the 11th or the 12th of April 1999, and the reason for that split is one of the more moving details in this whole video. He died within hours of watching Wales beat England by a single point in the Five Nations, which he watched from his hospital bed with his family around him. The Viking won the BDO World Championship in 2004, beating Mervyn King, weighing around 31 stone at his heaviest. His story has been told in detail on this channel already, so here is the short version. In November of that same year, playing Phil Taylor in a pay-per-view event at the Circus Tavern, he became unwell, took a break after the 7th set, and was advised by medical staff not to continue. The doctor he saw afterwards told him his liver was operating at 25% capacity as a result of long-term alcohol damage. In January of 2007, he was hospitalized before his first round match at Lakeside, diagnosed with cirrhosis, and spent 3 weeks in hospital while doctors drained 18 litres of fluid from his lungs. He was placed on the liver transplant list. He then did the hardest thing he ever did. He stopped drinking completely and lost 17 stone, and by December of 2008, it was announced that his improvement meant he probably would not need a transplant for 5 years. He bought himself 13 more years. Andy Fordham died on the 15th of July, 2021, age 59, of organ failure, with his wife Jenny beside him. 5 world titles, 5 world masters, the most dominant player of the 1980s, and the man who did more than anyone else to put the sport on television. Again, told in full elsewhere on this channel, so the short version. Dartitis took his career from him at 29. He built a second life as a Sky Sports pundit that ran until 2016. His own summary of his money is the one that sticks. He said he had earned millions and spent millions, and that there is not much point being the richest man in the graveyard. On the 5th of April, 2018, Eric Bristow suffered a heart attack after attending a corporate event in Liverpool, ahead of that night's Premier League fixture at the Echo Arena. He was 60 years old. The PDC announced his death midway through the evening's play, and the crowd sang his name. Scotland's first darts world champion twice over in 1982 and 1989, and the man Bristow lost that unforgettable 1989 final to from 5 sets kneel down. Covered at length on this channel, so again the short version. He walked away from the sport in December of 1995 with no announcement and no farewell, went home to Kirkcaldy, and spent his last 16 years in a 1-bedroom council flat on the estate he had grown up on. The medical detail is the one that belongs in this video. Jockey Wilson died on the 24th of March, 2012, age 62, having suffered from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, a progressive lung condition, in a man who spent his working life in rooms where everybody smoked at a tournament named after a cigarette. I said at the start I would not claim causation, and I am keeping to that. I am simply telling you what he died of. The oldest of the 6, and the man who started the whole thing. Leighton Rees won that first Embassy World Championship in February of 1978, beating John Lowe 11 legs to 7 for the £3,000 cheque in the tournament that a tobacco company had paid to create. Innis Abidal named a street after him. Because the prize money of his era was small, he made his living on the exhibition circuit, touring with his great friend Alan Evans. That is worth pausing on. The first world champion and the first television stars of the sport spent years driving around Britain together playing exhibitions, and both of them were dead before their 64th birthdays of organ failure. Rees had a pacemaker fitted and later a heart bypass, and the exhibition work stopped because of it. He came back to the World Championship stage once more to make the draw in the year before he died. Leighton Rees died on the 8th of June 2003 at the Royal Glamorgan Hospital in Lantry-Sun, aged 63, of a long-term heart condition. In his last major interview, given to John Lowe, he said he would not change anything, and then added that with a crystal ball, he would have looked after his health and his money differently. 5 months after he died, the government forced the cigarette brand off the tournament he had won, and now the one who does not fit, which is exactly why he belongs here. Kyle Anderson was born in Subiaco, Western Australia, on the 14th of September 1987, which is to say, he was born after the golden era this video has been describing. A Noongar man and one of the most popular players on the modern circuit, he was throwing darts at 6 and competing in tournaments at 9, having been drawn to it watching his father play. They called him the Original. He was one of only 8 players ever to hit a 9-dart finish at the PDC World Championship, achieving it against Ian White. He hit a second televised 9-darter in the semi-finals of the 2017 European Championship against Michael van Gerwen. In 2015, he set a world record average of 134.84 in the Players' Championship event. He reached the last 32 at Alexandra Palace 4 times and won the 2017 Auckland Darts Masters for his first televised title. He was not a world champion, and he was chasing that career from the other side of the planet. Having moved to Nottingham from Australia in 2014, the separation from his family weighed on him constantly. In February of 2021, he handed back his tour card voluntarily, saying he had enjoyed 7 great years in the PDC but was about to become a father again, and that it was fairer to let another rising star have the chance. He had type 2 diabetes and deteriorating eyesight, and he had been in hospital for some time. Kyle Anderson died on the 24th of August 2021, aged 33, leaving a wife and 2 children. No official cause was announced at the time, and Darts News has since reported it as kidney failure, so take that as reported rather than confirmed. Barry Hearn's tribute called his achievements outstanding and a fitting reward for the sacrifices he made to follow his dream. The darts community raised money for his family. When Simon Whitlock and Damon Heta won the World Cup of Darts for Australia the following year, they dedicated it to him. He died 5 weeks after Andy Fordham lined the 6 of them up. Alan Evans, 49, kidneys. Andy Fordham, 59, organ failure after alcoholic liver disease. Eric Bristow, 60, heart attack. Jockey Wilson, 62, chronic lung disease. Leighton Rees, 63, heart. Kyle Anderson, 33, kidney failure with type 2 diabetes. Not. One of them reached 65, now set that beside the working environment of the first 4 decades of professional darts, a sport whose flagship event carried a cigarette brand for a quarter of a century, venues where the audience smoked and drank while the players did the same on stage, a world champion getting through 24 bottles of lager before a match with nobody employed to intervene. No team doctor, no medical screening, no nutritionist, no rehabilitation program, and self-employed men with no sick pay who lost money every week they did not play. I am not a doctor, and I am not going to draw a causal line. Individual medical histories are individual. Kyle Anderson's story sits almost entirely outside that culture, and plenty of men from the same era are alive and well today. John Lowe is still with us. Bobby George turned 80. Keith Deller is still working in the sport. What the facts support is narrower than a headline and harder to dismiss. Darts asked these men to spend their prime years in a specific kind of room, funded by a specific kind of money, with nobody watching their health, and a striking number of them did not make old age. There is one more fact worth putting at the end of it. When the cigarette money was forced out in 2003, it did not stay out for long, and it did not come back as a health drink. The PDC World Championship has been sponsored by Ladbrokes, then William Hill, then Kazoo, then Paddy Power. The tobacco brand on the trophy was replaced by betting brands on the trophy. Draw whatever conclusion you like from that. It is simply what happened. 49, 59, 60, 62, 63, 33. Alan Evans, who was on television before almost anybody, and who died watching Wales beat England from a hospital bed. Andy Fordham, who was told 3/4 of his liver was dead and fought his way to 13 more years. Eric Bristow, who said there is no point being the richest man in the graveyard and then died working a darts night in Liverpool. Jockey Wilson, who won it twice and died of a lung condition in the council flat where he had started. Leighton Rees, the first champion of them all, whose heart stopped him earning a living. And Kyle Anderson, who gave up his tour card to be with his children and had 5 months left. 6 men who helped build the sport you watch now, and a trophy that carried the name of a cigarette for 25 years. If you want more from the Oki, there is a video on screen we think you will like. Just click it to start watching.